Well, thank you very much. We are here on Game Chat. This week we are joined by none other than TGC Tours Commissioner Doyley, Scott Doyley, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Welcome into Game Chat. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. We're all anticipated. The anticipation for TGC Tours is through the roof with all of the community. All of the degenerates from 21, not to mention all of the prior iterations of the games. And you've been around through all of it. So first off, just thanks for coming on and welcome on.
No worries, no worries. I'm glad to be a part of the community and getting everyone excited for the new game. It's nice to see a lot of old faces come back too. That usually happens every cycle. That's just a matter of whether we keep them around this time. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, one of the things we actually learned from our interview with Seamount, and I'm probably already taking one of Bear's questions, is that you kind of worked, I don't know if dragged him in or like collaborated or worked with him on TGC 1 as far as, the start of TGC Tours and this online community. And was that kind of like the origin of your thought process, or was it mainly just kind of like from the beginning? Like, what was the origin story, I guess, of TGC Tours, and where did you end up starting?
Well, I guess first question: when did you guys jump in to the scene, and how far
Late
back
19.
do you go?
We were both late 19.
All right. So back, geez, I don't even know how I remember. I found TGC 1. I think I was always anti Tiger Woods, so my golf history go right back to the start. It was like leaderboard golf on the Commerce 64. Then I went to Jack Nicklaus. Then I did PGA Championship 2000. I actually designed a course or two in that, which is hilarious.
PGA Championship 2000. What platform was that on?
Yep, that had a course design. It was actually 99 and 2000. It was a really good game. And then that's when the Tiger Woods came in, and I, funny enough, being a sim kind of guy, I jumped on the Hot Shots golf bandwagon and played that for about 3 or 4 versions, and then that went away, and then there was like a golf void, and I love golf, so I was trying to find what the latest thing was, and I stumbled on the golf club while it wasn't in beta. I wasn't like right on the out of the hop, but it was pretty new, and so we got on there, and it was obviously amazing for what it was. It was obviously pretty patched together quickly, and then they kept on piecing this and that, and then they had the course designer, which was like amazing for the time. But it was very bare bones, right? So like you get in there and you would play, but there was like no career. There was no, there was just a golf and a designer. So me being who I am, I'm pretty handy with spreadsheets. So I started a spreadsheet tour in Google Sheets, which was it's funny, if I pull them up, you'll recognize a bunch of the names right from like day one. So I would like literally run tournaments and like no API. This is well before all that stuff. So it's just go on the leaderboard, slam, like a lot of people still do, and you slam the scores on that. And I ran that for at least a season. So it was going on 7 or 8 months. And then I get out of the blue, I get a PM on the HB Studios message board from Tim, who I had no idea who he was at the time. And he basically said, like, I like what you're doing, and I can do it way better in the shortest version of the story.
Right.
Which, I was like, okay, well, do you have anything you can show me? And he showed me something he did, and I was like, oh, that's like professionally done. Very nice. Like, I cannot do that.
Makes my life easier.
And he was just looking for someone to run tours, which is what I was basically doing. So there's that. He roped in Jeff, Smiling Goats, around the same time, who was obviously very, good at doing website and front end stuff. And Tim was the back end. So the three of us, right off, hit it pretty good. We're all pretty compatible people. And so from there, we spent, I would say, this is probably going back to, the year was this 2014? Probably 2014. And we spent probably 4 or 5 months building it out. And then in the last little bit, we put a counter out and just said, qualifying school, and we were expecting like maybe 500 people on the site max, like over the course of this thing, and we had over 500 for the first qualifying. So it was crazy. So we realized we hit a nerve with the community. So that was kind of the start of it, and it was the initial thing was just copying the PGA and copying the European Tour and copying the web.com at the time, and just using everything, names, everything. We didn't care. We're so small, right? You just mirrored it, and so that's how we started, and it took off. We had a lot of drama in that first year. We had a lot of drama in every year, really. But
we're not that dramatic. The golfers, come on.
No. My goodness, some of the stuff it just makes me laugh all the time. That's how it started, and then we obviously as we got bigger, we realized that we needed more and more help, because at the start I was doing everything. I was picking courses, doing the conditions, doing everything, and then obviously at the start you signed your own scorecard. So we didn't have the API. We weren't pulling scores. So you would shoot it. You would then put your score in. We would check it. And like the amount of times people put in the wrong score, I'm like, your score's not a 68, it's a 69. So I get to disqualify you. And then we had a thing too where it was like a scorecard and you had to sign your name. And like people would this is the hint of like what I was getting myself into. The people that would sign their gamer tag, people would sign their real name. So people would sign their TGC Tours name. And every week I'd get like 5 emails saying, what name should I be signing on this? And it was literally, it didn't even matter. It was just there for fun, right? Mm-hmm. So my first hints of the ticket system we got and how much that would swallow up my life. But, which, jumping ahead to now, this Optin thing, good night. I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, so that's what happened. And every year we got bigger, we expanded, we started flights, we started the challenge circuit. And then Tim, who was all in on this, decided to start a software-based company because he's very good at what he does, and it took off. And so now it's like, I'm sure you guys see a lot of me, and you probably see a lot of Jeff, but you don't see a lot of Tim. So, he's, at this point, he runs hot and cold with the game. When he's hot, he's like on it, and things happen, and we just pile stuff on him as fast as we can, and then he's off and doing his other thing. So that's why a lot of the times, like the last couple of years, you'll find the site, it doesn't evolve as much. I know a lot of people are looking for like more. They always suggest more tours, more, split this up, split that up.
Oh yeah.
And we're basically limited to just the site, the format. You can tweak things here and there as long as it's not too much, but the site literally runs itself. Like on the coding side, he does very little to maintain other than a couple bugs.
That's the way to do it. All automation, right?
Yeah. There's a couple things. Obviously, we got a long list of things that are still on the things to add or fix or tweak, but for the most part, the site's good. It gets the people on the leaderboards. You score, get your scores in, you get your money, and you move on to the next week. And so it's been, I think it's over 8 years now.
That's going to be so cool and rewarding and like fulfilling at the same time. Like at the same, you can obviously sense the overwhelming, amount that it takes a toll probably on you at certain times, especially like right now in between games or like between seasons and such. Once the ball's rolling, it's probably automated a little bit more, but my goodness, like, but when it's done, it's probably very rewarding. Right?
Yeah. Well, the thing, like for me, that I find, I got a lot of responsibility when it comes to settings. Like, just the settings that we've used influences like so many societies, and it trickles down. So like if I sit there and just don't give it any thought and throw it out there and they're not great, then all of a sudden I'm like, a whole section of the game, competitive side, just is not having a good time. So there's a lot of stuff at this time of the year where that's that weighs on you. And obviously we just threw out our settings recently, and we got what you got. We've got as make it as fun as we can, as challenging as we can, and try to keep people from being too frustrated that they leave. But that's it. That's this schedules. We got that coming up. It's just all this stuff that you don't really think of. You just like, the schedule there. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I got to do that. If I don't do it, there's no schedule.
Yeah.
So we get to record on Christmas Eve, basically. It's the day the settings get released. Now everyone's excited.
Yeah.
What went into the decision making for the specific settings that got released?
Yeah. Okay. So the settings, well, we'll say the last version we ran pro because in the last game Master was a bit of a mess, so we went pro. So this game, I started playing it, and right off the bat, I was like just loving Legend. And in the version, because I was playing it a little earlier, and in the version I was playing Legend at, it was easier than the Legend that they released the game in. So when I said I was loving it, it was like, I'd say it'd be between what it ended up Master and Legend being now. So when the game came out and Legend was a bit harder, I was like, okay, that might not work for the full set, but I'm like, oh, it might work for the top tours. So then I just sit there and I pinged a lot of guys, like I try to watch every system. Mainly Xbox is a big one because they have a tough time with their controllers and hitting a lot of points on the meter. And that was the first thing I asked. I asked Bees on the Xbox. I'm like, how's it playing? And I watch his streams and I can see that, for Xbox, if they don't hit perfect, they can't hit a light gray, right? So right off the bat, I'm like, if that's like that for everybody, then they're dead in the water. So I don't really want to eliminate an entire console just by saying we're going to play a tough setting and it's fun for 2/3 of the community. So then we go to Master, and I fully expect the top end to shoot lights out. I expect the bottom end to struggle, and I expect the middle to have a lot of fun. So hopefully, the two extremes can make do, and hopefully have some fun with it. And I guarantee the guys in the middle are going to have a good fun duking out on fun settings. They're not too frustrating. They're not too easy. And if it's too hard, just go throw yourself a legendary magnet ball.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for example, I played, I've obviously played a good amount myself, and like all of us here. Today on Masters, I shot a round over par, and then I shot one near 10 under par. So like it's kind of those two, the highs and lows are really exciting, So that I agree that middle tier is going to have a ton of fun. Do you think now? I guess my question on top of that is, are you at all scared of it being too difficult to promote on the CC tours? To promote expansion, to promote newer players. I feel like tenured CC players aren't having any issues with going to Masters, and a lot of the other settings are open to kind of cater to make it easier for them. But is that at all like thought in the back of your mind?
Not really. My main concern is if the top of the leaderboard is so far away from the middle, like regardless of what tour you're on, right?
Right.
Which is why, like in CC, we always do the fast track and we always try to promote the good ones, because everyone in CC, whether they're good, average, or whatever, they all have the potential to get a lot better, and some do. And when they do that, we got to get them out of there as fast as we can. So and it's really score relative. So if on Masters, CC, CCK is shooting 68, 69, as long as the leader's within reach, people will be fine. They might not be shooting 55 under, but as long as their peers, like all their people around them are close, they'll be fine. It's just when you're shooting, you shoot 7 under for your tournament and the winner's 42 under, like that's when the fun stops and you're like, well, why am I doing this? So, getting those guys out of their promo events, fast tracking, once you get up to the top tours, you're limited in how much better you can get. So generally it bunches up a little better, but on the challenge circuit, yeah, I'm not too worried about Master being too hard. I just think as long as everyone's either struggling the same or, as long as par, if they're around par, which I think they should be on CC, they're pretty good down there. They're not. I don't think they'll struggle too much. Masters got, with the widening of the grays, Masters playable on pretty quite a few skill levels. So
especially if on those you're playing on easier courses as well, which is always the MO for CC, right? So you're not having these 180 greens with crazy.
No, for sure. So yeah, I'm not too concerned. And I think we did the tests. We did pro on the challenge circuit during the tests, and I got a lot of feedback of like current CC players where they were shooting really, really low scores, and a lot of them were saying it wasn't very challenging. So I think Master's good, and even if you start off struggling, there's still the potential to pick up and get better. And by the middle of the season, I think everyone, if they stick it out, should have a good time down there.
All right, so this is kind of like fuck, marry, kill, only it shoot, stab, poison. Who is the most annoying to deal with? Plat players, course designers, or the people who go, Doyley, fix your set? No, that's not the question. But how much do you sort of laugh or shrug off all of the constant complaints that you get when someone looks at a course design or someone goes, because it's you get a thankless job, unfortunately, and I'll make sure I thank you plenty, because we don't get to be here doing this if it's not for you setting this up. So first off, thank you. And then, what's it like to go through some of those forum posts, the tweets? Like, how do you kind of handle that?
I must have a personality that just handles it well. I know Tim's a little more fiery, and there's been times behind the scenes where he's ready to lash out. I'm like, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. And he's like, what do you mean? So a lot of that stuff, I don't know. I just find it like, I take, like, for example, a forum troll, and you'll see, they'll be on there. It's very obvious what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And then people will sit there and constantly reply to them. You're like, well, don't say something. He'll just, if he shouts into an echo chamber, he'll finally go away. Mm-hmm. And people just can't seem to stop. And I'm like the opposite end. I have no issues reading, a lot of people don't like TGC Tours, and that's fine. And they might go out there and post about it, and I read it, and then I just move on and go on to the next thing and see what else people are saying. Like, I don't sit there and go, oh, how can you not like us? We're such nice people, It's like, we like everybody. So I think that helps. And I can't remember that. Like, there's people that are like, they, we've had people that try to skirt rules and push boundaries, and it can get annoying, but at the same time, it's just ban them, move on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I do. It's like, okay, like, they don't understand. Like, we don't get paid. We're having, this is our own free time, and if you're making my life miserable, I'm just going to move on from you, and you can go play golf elsewhere or grab a.
Oh, jeez.
We'll cut that. We don't. We don't want people.
Don't give any people ideas.
Going, oh, that's how we get around it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man. Now, I guess on that note, one of the coolest things I think about TGC Tours is the ability to kind of prevent and look out for cheating, quote unquote, with their API checks. How far back does that go? And that's obviously something that HB Studios kind of helped you guys with, I would imagine.
Yeah, this is back when Anthony Kine was the lead developer of the game for TGC. I want to say we got it in TGC 1. It's just going back so far
wow.
now. At the tail end of that, I'm pretty sure we had it before TGC 2 rolled around. But yeah, we just, Tim was saying we need this because we got so big, and if you guys can do it, and they were young, a small studio, and fully on board, so they whipped up this API. I had no idea at the time what an API was, and I guarantee you right now I'm probably using the term completely wrong. But the API is just this big magical term for like this big whole, it's all this data that just gets dumped, and I was like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. Well, I didn't. I know now what to look for, but yeah, it's very interesting seeing golf swings as a group of numbers. That's all basically this stuff spits out at the end of the day. And so when you're sitting there going, okay, say you have a swing and it goes zero's dead straight, and then it goes a positive number and a minus number. There's like 7 decimal places, and someone rolls in and just has dead zeros right up the hoop the whole round. You're like, okay, well, that's a straight shooter. That's easy, right?
Yeah.
Off you go. And then you go, okay, well, let's see what the PlayStation controllers are doing. Oh, let's see what the Xbox controllers are doing. oh, you got guys on mouse. Let's see what they like. And all of a sudden, you start seeing all these numbers. You're like, all right, now we got to figure out how to play in the sandbox. And that's when we came up with the fair play policy, which basically we just set a threshold of how accurate you can be before you get pulled. And it's at the point, you go, can you do this repeatedly? Like, if you saw my my shot data compared to where our threshold is, you would laugh. You would be like, "This, you must be the worst golfer in the history of the game." But as you go up the tours, up and down tours, like there's people that are just good at the game, right? And you can't sit there and go, "Oh, you're good," you can't play here. But then there's also patterns, like any set of numbers, and that's what we use to kind of police the tours. So these things start popping out, and you go, "Okay, that looks a little fishy." How do you do that? And then, eventually you go, okay, well, you can't do that, and off you go. So you see
must
people
say,
we're both
foresight...
Excel guys. We're both Excel guys. So talking about like patterns you could see, I'm sure Kilbride's kind of adjusting a little bit.
The foresight that you mentioned that like Tim kind of proactively had, saying that we need to have this in on TGC 1, just kind of blows my mind that was like a thought and something that he was willing to implement. So behind the scenes, if you want to chat me, if his company is public and I can invest, because this guy seems like he's on his shit. So
he's doing very fine. Like I say, I do not push him to come back and do stuff for us, because I know he's doing good things on his paying gig. So no, it's funny. And like I say, the whole the initial pull for it was just for score retrieval, because we had so many people, and so many people making mistakes in their scores, and it was just it was getting too much. And we thought, well, automatic score retrieval would be so much better, which it is. And then that's when we got the hole by hole scores too, right? Because before that, you would just have a round score.
Right.
So if you go back, like you could probably tell when we got it if you go back far enough and see when the hole by hole scores start popping up in the old stats. But and that's when all the fun started, because then you get all the good stuff where you can start
metrics and
the
greens and regulation and
all the fun stuff that we nerds like to dig into.
I saw some of those advanced spreadsheets from back in the day too. I don't know if those were like something that someone additionally was doing on the side, but I was deep diving into one of those one day. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Putts gained versus, or strokes gained on putting or something,
If you're into the advanced spreadsheets, go check the TST guys. Those guys are next level with their spreadsheet stats right now. It's ridiculous.
Okay. I'm gonna have to dive in there.
They're doing what we would do if Tim had a full-time paying job at TGC Tours. Like that's the kind of stuff we could probably come up with if we had a full-time, 40-hour-a-week developer, but we don't.
So do you pop champagne? What's the beverage of choice every time patch notes or patches come out, and it doesn't alter the game? Because last season we had a red fast nerf, and then we had a red fast patch, both about like one was 6 weeks into a season or maybe a couple months into the season, and then we had the red patch nerf the week after it got set to pro. So when do you start to celebrate the seasons as they go on?
I don't know if I ever celebrate. It's always just apprehension and just fear of the unknown. That patch, the second week of the season was a little bit of it was just like,
Thank you.
We're just like, oh, we'll set it up this, and like, I was like, oh, I really don't want to go pro, because pros are like a little too easy. But I'm like, we can't go master. I was like, okay, we've been doing this for so long, and I was like, I hear nothing. So like, all right, pro it is. Send out all the emails, blast it out. And then literally like 6 days later, I'm like, are you kidding me? There's a patch. I was like, we're not going back.
Yeah.
Can't go back now. We're already in this. Yeah. So we just did the season, and it worked out fine. Not my favorite settings we've used, but under the circumstances, it worked.
That's what happened with the Red Fast Review podcast. 2 weeks in, we named the podcast over after the Red Fast, and then we're like, you know what? We're too deep in. We're 2 weeks in. We're sticking with it.
Funny story about Red Fast. Oh my goodness. So, looking at numbers and knowing what the red fast is on the number side of things, it's so funny to know how much I looked at it and not realized I was looking at it. So I had a buddy of mine, which is funny because like a lot of times you see numbers, but you have no access to the people shooting them. So I had a friend that was local, was playing on PlayStation, and he was doing red fast unknowingly. Like it wasn't on purpose. He just discovered that he could do this, aim this way, shoot this way,
Yeah.
ball goes good. I'm like, I look at his numbers, like you got the like one of the worst swings. Like how are you shooting so good? And he's like, I don't know, I just do this, this, this. So I was like, probably a couple days before it all came out, like the whole thing just blew up. I was over there watching him swing, watching his like swing line go way to the left, all this stuff. I was like, what on earth's going on? And I still didn't even put it together that it was like was what everyone was doing. And then all of a sudden, of course, it's red fastest, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" And then he left the game. He has no idea that he played the game with the red fast thing. He's just like, "Oh, this game's all right. I'm doing pretty good." So yeah, I ended up watching it in person, like a week before it came out as what it was, and I still, you never think that it's always something. People always figure it out. They'll figure it out if there's a way to figure something out. It's crazy.
Yeah. Now, obviously, it seems thus far in we're early on in the game cycle that 2K, HB, I don't know who's really more involved. All one and the same, I guess, at this point. Is more interactive on updates, patch notes, interaction with the community, taking feedback. I assume I don't know if you're technically. I assume you're a next maker. You have early access, or I don't know what title that might be. But are you constantly in communication with them? Throughout 21, and even more so now. Are you kind of getting that same feeling?
Yeah, well, like I said, we go back so long that I know a lot of them just through email for certain issues we have or API stuff. So, and then when 2K got involved, and then there was like a whole new crew of people that came on, but I still knew the HB guys. So like, I'm like at this point now, I'm like, I don't know what's the proper, like, do I have to go through 2K to get to this guy I know for 6 years, or do I go straight to them? And then it was Anthony, and then it was Sean. So like we talk with these guys all the time, and they apparently have, they kept us in the game, or every game, like you don't really hear from them because they keep things pretty tight. So you're like, everyone's like, oh, you got the API for the new game? I'm like, I don't really know. They're not saying anything. And then I got the game. I was like, well, our logo's still in it, so that's a good sign. And then, and it's like anything, we don't bother them until we need to. And then when it comes time, we, send out a note and they reply. I'm like, okay, that's all good. So a lot of times it's communication when it's necessary.
Gotcha.
And on the next maker side, it's more of a lot of feedback, and they'll
collaborative
respond.
effort back and forth.
Yeah, they'll respond sometimes, but a lot of times you're just like, this is what we think, and a lot, we did that for the pregame process. We were playing it, and there's a lot of things that we thought, between like, there's a bunch of next makers like G-Dog and Seamount and that all have good ideas and good points and just constructive feedback, and you don't really say, they don't come back and go, oh, that's a great idea. They just take it in, and then next game come out, we're like, oh, they took a lot of that in. So, you felt like you contributed to something that was improved, and
Yeah, one of the things that we've been, or at least I've been saying, and I think Bear's in agreement, is it feels like they touched up almost, like nothing is leaps and bounds necessarily better, but I feel like every little thing is slightly better. You know what I mean? Like there's slight improvements here, slight improvements there, and yeah, it's it feels a little bit like a work in progress if I had to give it a true rating. But me as a degenerate, I'm gonna play it nonstop no matter what, anyways, right? But it feels like this time more than else, more than 21. If it seems like something that they are going to continue to have a work in progress feeling on, and obviously with that news that they're working on crossplay and online ranked and a few other things that the patch notes coming out, it just seems much more encouraging this time around.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little selfish in my gameplay. I generally don't fret too much over career or the extra stuff. I literally just first thing I do is like, okay, how does it play? Because we kind of operate in just the gameplay bubble. So
Right.
and then coming out of 2K21 where you could like, you're chipping in 75% of the time. The shots are this is it's just kind of the shots that you bail it yourself out around the green all the time. You're just like, just make it a little more difficult. Maybe not chip in every single time. So that was when I first started playing. I'm like, okay, that's different. I'm not chipping in. Ball's rolling out. Oh, downhill putts. Like all these things, you're like, okay, this is different. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a lot of fun when we get going. And then obviously you got the other controversial things like the balls that they put in. And you're like, okay, well maybe, it's you're one step forward and half a step back or whatever, a step sideways, and you just gotta adapt to it. But like the game itself, when I was playing, I was like, man, we're having a lot of fun. And I find out a lot of people say that like you get an alt shot going and everyone's having a good time. Like the game plays really good. And so I just, there's a couple things, little rough edges around that if they can shore that up, like obviously the package as a whole gets better. But to me, the gameplay, there's not a lot that was like glaring that is missing right out of the box. So I was like, okay, well, we'll make do with this. Like there's a lot here we can do with TGC Tours. So so back to Master we went. We'll see how this.
Looking forward to it.
It's funny because when I started playing Master, I was like, this is tough. Like I was shooting 4 or 5 over. I was shooting 2 or 3 under. And then I was like, well, we'll wait because like, it's just a small bubble of us on PC. I was like, we'll wait and see what the consoles do. And then of course we got a couple other guys on PC that are superstars. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, oh, a long shot into the green. Oh, that kind of sits pretty good. It doesn't bounce and roll out. And 3-wood kind of bites. And like I'm starting to think these top guys are going to go real low in this game. I'm still hacking it around. I was like, okay, so the middle's gonna have a lot of fun. The top end's gonna go real low still, and but that's all right. That's you can't make the top end a realistic score without trashing the bottom 70-80% of the tour. So
right.
It's unfortunate that those guys probably, I don't know if they like it or not. I personally don't like shooting that low. Because I at one point I was a good golfer in this game, and I used to shoot in the mid 50s before tempo. Apparently, tempo killed my game, but and that was my thing. I was just like, man, this is it's so easy to hit the square you want to hit, this and that, and I was just like,
right.
So to me, like if I could have everyone on tour play like me, we'd have so much fun because I'm all over the place all the time.
I'd love nothing more for like the best round of the day being like a 10 under. You know what I mean? Like that seems like in the majority of the field, like 4 or 5 under. But like you're saying, people are just gonna, like anything else, they're gonna spend a lot of time with it, get really good at it. So I mean, it's out of your control.
Yeah, like I said, as you go down the tours, you'll find that even like in the lower end of the challenge circuit, they're still shooting scores that are like super low for like a realistic PGA. So it's not going to happen where realistic scores are the norm, but I think we'll be closer. Well, I say that, but I don't think anyone's really using these golf balls to their full potential just yet. So you just wait till the qualifying event and everyone loads up on a nice ball.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll see a bunch of low 50s out of everyone. But I think that the bulk of the tours, or at least the bottom half, are gonna have a great time because someone's gonna shoot 67 and the next round they're gonna shoot 73, and it's just gonna be everyone's gonna be within reach, I think.
Yeah.
So, what's just the best part? Like you don't want to feel. That was a problem with one of the middle section for me. Was like if you made a par, you felt like your tournament was like you couldn't catch up. You had to birdie, but it's still like that on the top end. But I think in the bulk of our tours here, that par is going to be good. Birdies are going to gain, and that's what I like. I'd rather that than have birdies be you stay same and you eagles to gain. That's a tough.
Right. Yeah.
It's tough to sustain for a full season. It gets a bit grindy that way.
What's been one of your favorite memories over your time as commissioner?
Oh, there's so many good ones. So my, well, I'll go with the easy one. So there's, uh, I wish I had the name. I'm pretty sure it's Golf Journal. It's a pretty posh golf magazine, and I think it's Golf Journal, and it's like it's got like Tiger Woods, and it's got, you know, course architects building brand new real life courses, and one issue, someone took a shining to us, and they literally did a whole like 2-page TGC Tours drama fest between
Drama.
it was all like our drama around the Masters, because we had two courses, and it was about the drama between the two designers and which one we picked and why, and then it was drama around the winner and why. And I'm like, so you're going through this like posh, you know, high premium magazine, and all of a sudden you open up the middle of it, and there's TGC Tours, like just it's like a forum drama right in the middle of this like oh, I loved it. It's so funny. So that's a good one. There's that one, and everyone else who's been around a while probably knows the Boom Boom stories. So we had this one. This one just kills me. So after this is all done, you just go dig up the thread on the forums. It's a work. It's just probably the best. It's the best thing you'll read on our forums. So we had a golfer that won our first Masters, and he won it by quite a bit, and he did it by cheating, which we found out soon after, which was this is no longer a cheat, I don't believe, so I can probably talk about it. He would turn off his internet and take a shot, and if it was good, he would plug back in, and if it wasn't, he would restart the game and it would take him back to where he was. So he could literally just shoot until he liked the shot. So everyone's like, you know, it was at the time it was Augusta National, and it was a tough course, and he just cleaned up. So he was our first big thing. So we, you know, what you do when someone does something like that in a major, you it's like, all right, one and done, out you go. So he's gone, and like 3 months later, a guy came on named he came on as Boom Boom. And I was like, you can't have that. He has his name on the leaderboard. I'm like, that name doesn't fly. You got to change your name. I still remember seeing it and tell him to change it. So he changed his name to Brian Boomer. And so he gives on, and he just, you know, does his thing. He just does a design. He gets involved in the community. He gets on the podcast. We had a podcast at the time with like Andre and Irving and those guys. So he's on there, and so he's got his footprint all over this stuff. He has a forum avatar that is pretty unique, and Crazy Canuck recognized this avatar from his real life, like a real life Facebook. I don't know, it's Facebook or something. But anyways, Andre was working with him for something. He saw him, but it was this other guy from the Masters that we had already booted, right?
Oh my God.
So he comes back as this thing, but he's been around for a while. Everyone knew him. He was well known, like literally on our podcast, like doing stuff like this. And so Andre found out about it and made this amazing post, like being a detective and showing this and this and this. And my goodness, the things that came out of that thread. So that's where Jerry showed up. I don't know if you know Jerry. He's our ventriloquist, our puppet. So we had a guy named Wags.
I've seen the puppet.
Yeah, so in the middle of all this drama, Wags brings out this puppet to commentate on what's going on. So we're just like, what is going on? So that's all, like, this thing's amazing. So now we see like Jerry. Every time you see something like Jerry, this is where it all comes from. So my forum avatar's Jerry. It just blew up. And then we had the I don't know if you ever seen the meme dude where he's just laughing like crazy and people dub underneath him laughing. So someone did that as this boomer guy, and it's like one of the funniest things you'll ever see. So like that's the kind of the garbage that came through the site. It's just so funny. Like people will do anything. And I'm like, we're just a golf site, and we still have tons of drama like that. So yeah, Andre. If you ever bring it up with Andre, he'll laugh because it's probably, if anyone gives you the top three, it's always number one or two. Probably always number
Ugh.
one. The Boom Boom story.
I
That's too
look
good.
forward to the Netflix
So
documentary on this
it's
one.
yeah. There's a thread, and it's probably 60, 70 pages long, and it starts off with the bang, and it ends like it's nonstop hilarity. So yeah.
Yeah, that's too good. So one thing we didn't really kind of touch too much on is, I mean, a little bit that TGC won Hot Shots was kind of your way in. Are you a big golfer in real life, more of a gamer, combination of both? What kind of, what steered you in this direction to begin with? I assume it was more golf than gaming, but I see you in G-Dogs chat all the time talking about other games and stuff, so I assume you're kind of a big gamer as well.
Yeah, I'm a gamer slash sports guy, so kind of a jock nerd combo, which is just funny because I find I gravitated to a lot of the like C-mounts, kind of the same vein. We all
Yeah.
kind of gravitated to each other. So yeah, no, I golf. I actually got a golf membership this year, and I've never golfed as much as I have, and I have not much better than when I started. So I am I would say I don't keep track of my handicap, but my guess is I would be probably in the 15 range, 12 to
Okay.
15. Not terrible, but not amazing either.
Like 22 myself. Now you're in Canada, so you even able to use that membership too much, or maybe they make it affordable up in Canada as far as membership rates.
You love golf during the summer. You get as much in as you can. So our golf season here runs probably, if you're lucky, you can start at the end of April, but usually it's mid-May. And I'm looking, and now we're just watching the clock. Usually most courses close by November, but we're having a nice warm spell, so I might get a couple weeks into November before it
There you
shuts
go.
down.
Nice.
So
Yeah, it's been a good year.
Yeah.
we're going to run this next Friday. So we end up getting the qualifying. Is it going to be the single tournaments and two tournaments? And do you have an idea of what the courses are going to be?
Yes, and I know the answer to all those questions.
I love it.
So if this is coming, obviously it's coming out well in advance, because
A
actually
week from today, yeah.
yeah, I don't plan on holding that information much longer. So the course, the Keg Farm that was just released, that has about a laundry list of about 8 all-star designers on it, is going to be
cool.
the course. And it's only going to be 4 rounds this time. Usually we do 8, but the problem with doing 8 is if you miss the first 4 rounds, you're kind of pooched for the second set. And it's and ever since we got these promo events kind of down to a science, it's easier to use that as like almost a second qualifying event. You get into the tours, and then if you played bad, you get another chance. So we have a promo event the 3rd week. So you play qualifying a regular week, and then there's a promo event, and that helps people that maybe had a hole where they 4 or 5 putted and it dropped them down 3 tours, that they can kind of bounce back. And I won't be filling the tours completely out of the qualifying. There'll be a good chunk of slots. And then my goal is by week 5, because week 4 will be, if the promo event goes as planned, the bottom half of the challenge circuit might be a little sparse. So then the following week it'll get filled up from qualifying, who's left over in that. So by week 5, hopefully things are humming along where there's a pretty good balance across the tours. It might get right out of the hop. It's kind of hit or miss, because there's only 4 rounds, so there's a lot of room for someone to have an amazing 4 rounds or a bad 4 rounds and kind of get placed wherever. And there's a lot of guys too that just get the game, play qualifying, shoot just enough to get on the tours, and realize, oh, this is fun, I better figure out how to actually play this game. And then all of a sudden, in a very short span of time, they go from shooting 68s to 58s, and all of a sudden they're not in the right spot. So
Yeah. I love that idea of having that qualifying event early on for exactly that reason. It's that's going to be the big attraction. It's like maybe you're just kind of messing around in societies now, and then all of a sudden you try to get the competitive juices flowing, and it's it's a little shaky at first, and you get placed down in lower CC when you're really like a kinetic or elite player or something.
You just wait though, man. Like, this is going to be insane. It's like with 4 rounds, and more than likely, I'm going to guess upwards of 1,700, 1,800 people.
That's so sweet.
You miss one putt, it might be a flight, might be two, might be a tour.
Yeah.
Like there's no room to like make mistakes. You know, if you get like a 3-putt, like good luck trying to get 17 other, you know, usually with the 8-round one, you can kind of, you know, you got room to make some back. So it's going to be high stakes golf. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. All the streams that week are going to be a lot of fun.
All the practice rounds we're gonna see the week before
Yeah.
when you announce
Oh,
it.
I guarantee you by the end of the qualifying, you will never play the keg farms again.
Yeah, is it going to be hated more
Nice
than?
as it is, it's going to be. It's funny. It usually happens for most of our like for the first of. We usually do this when the game's released. So I went back and played the 2 that we did for the 21. I was like, man, I'd literally.
Evangelist and
I never.
Whiskey Creek,
Yeah, it was one of the
Whiskey
whiskeys.
Dunes.
Yeah.
Whiskey Dunes. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember someone made a comment like midstream. They're like, Doyley just got an ace on Evangelist. I think we're going to get Evangelist. Like, I loved hearing all the conspiracies of like people trying to track what you were playing to figure out what was going to happen.
Yeah, so I knew the keg farms was being built, and I was like, you know, it was all a matter of whether it was going to be done in time. I was like, all right, you know, I'd say I wanted to play it first, but like when you see who's designing it, you don't need
Who's
to.
got their hands in on that?
So I'm gonna miss some of them. So there's B101,
Good
Energizer,
start.
BS Petty, JW Hamilton. Oh my goodness, there's so many. Like it's basically the who's who of the design community.
Was this kind of like an initial thought, like let's have a big collab? Like I don't know if you know much about it, but like
no, they're kind of like their own. What's the keg is? It's like a group of designers. It's their thing, and it's kind of how the whiskey project was born back then. A bunch of guys with like the one plot. So this is kind of what they did this one, and you know, it would have been out whether I used it or not, and so they just said, hey, we got this course in the works.
That's cool.
I'd be crazy not to look at it and they say, there's a lot of nice courses and a lot of great designers, but there's not a lot of fresh courses. Like there's a lot of ports coming out.
Right.
But like a brand new fresh course, like it's, you know, it takes a while. Takes a while for these guys to get these going. So I know a lot of them build it in the old game and finish it in this one. But yeah, it had to be a new course, and it's hard to say no to when these guys got all their fingers on it. So it'll be fun.
Yeah. Now I have one last question, and you probably I'm guessing you've thought about it. EA is around the corner. Is there any sort of interest at all, or you know? What are the thoughts? I know you mentioned earlier you weren't into Tiger Woods games because it seemed more arcadey, and that's my perception, and I couldn't agree more. I love the simulation style, and I love what HB and 2K have done, and you've put a ton of time and effort in here. So I can't imagine you would ever even, you know, spend the time to do that, but, you know, competition is going to be great for the gaming industry. So I'm curious, have you, you know, thought about it at all?
I don't think we've had. Well, the three of us have not had a conversation about it specifically in relation to TGC Tours. But I think, you know, you'd be crazy not to be interested in trying out a next gen golf game. So,
absolutely, yeah. Especially
when it's coming out on PC. Like I got a PS5 too, but I do the bulk of mine on a PC. So. And you know, a lot of the Tiger Woods games weren't on PC recently, so that's another reason why I steered clear of that. But yeah, no, I don't know if we would ever consider, like, I don't think we would ever split, like do one on each. It would either be all or nothing. And
it would need the Brinks truck.
It would have to be so slam dunk, like you have to do this to even consider it. And like for me personally, it's dead in the water if there's no course designer.
And you know, who even knows if they have societies?
Yeah. Or yeah, like if their setup's the same. But like I say, even if there is societies and stuff, if they have a limited number of courses, we have so many events
Mhm.
And if you're like limited to 40 courses and you're running through the same ones or whatever amount they give you, I couldn't do it. It would just be too much repetitive. Like the amazing thing about this is like we run very rarely do we use the same course twice. Like, you know, it happens here now and then, but 95% of the time it's a fresh course every week for 50, 42 weeks, 50, 45 weeks in the season. It's insane that there's that many courses out every week that you can put a new one on.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of the reason why it works so well. So to not have that, personally, I wouldn't want to invest in the time knowing that the end result could be people getting sick of the courses before the season was over.
No.
As nice as I'm sure they will look.
Yeah.
Yeah, play it once every April and then, shut it down, go back to Tuesday.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Again, I know as the commissioner, you don't get a lot of people, thanking you for a lot of the things,
Yes.
but as part of
From
the
time to time, I always appreciate someone will slip a PM in, usually during a period of a lot of negativity on a decision I had made. They're like, oh, by the way, we still like you. Not all of us feel this. That's the one thing you got to realize. If you make a decision, the people that are unhappy are going to be the most vocal.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, the people that are okay with it just go, okay, that's fine with me, and they move on with their day. So, so I appreciate the people that do make the effort to say thank you, though. It does. There's a lot of work involved, and there's a lot of time invested in, but it's at the same time, I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. So.
Yeah, I mean, Bear said it, or one of us said it to Seamount, saying like, "Hey, you're like kind of like the godfather of streaming in the golf industry." Well, same sort of thing goes to you. You're almost like the grandfather. Like we're all children of like what you've created. Almost, it's a weird analogy. I know. Take it for what it is, but
I'm old. Don't worry.
we wouldn't be
Granddaddy?
connected. Yeah, we wouldn't be connected if it wasn't for TGC Tours. Like the odds of us. Even any of us meeting, Red Fast Review being a thing, and ditto what Bear said. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. We'll do this again in another 8 years and see how it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're never stopping. We're never stopping.
Love it.
Perfect.